Hey everybody, this is Cosmo, and I've been thinking to myself just how much I love Pokemon speedrunning. There are lots of different Pokemon games out there with different RNG manipulations, strategies, and routes to ultimately beat the game as fast as possible. My game of choice has always been Pokemon Black. To me, it is the perfect balance between RNG and execution in a Pokemon speedrun, and it allows for constant growth and fun. From the lightning fast and risky early game to the more relaxed late game that is still able to keep you on your toes. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to explain how to speedrun Pokemon Black for the Nintendo DS. Let's jump right into it. I'll start by saying it's best before doing any speedruns of a game to understand the game itself and the rules of the speedrun. If you've never watched any runs or need a refresher on the game, I'd recommend doing so over on speedrun.com/PokemonBlackWhite1. There, you will be able to also figure out the rules and see many different people's investments into the game in the form of full, fast playthroughs called personal bests, or PB for short. This is used for submissions, and you too can have a leaderboard placing once you've completed your first run. The 3 ways you can play this game is with a Nintendo DS with a capture board installed by Loopy. I'll leave a link in the description since that is the best way to play. A Nintendo 3DS with a capture board, or the Desmume emulator. The any percent category of Pokemon Black has you utilize 6 Pokemon. Tepig, Pignite, and Emboar are our starter Pokemon lineup and companion for the entire game. Pansage, the god broccoli monkey himself, which allows us to take down Cress easily. Woobat, the lovable 50% encounter flyer we will be using to go back and forth across the region, and of course, Reshiram at the end of the game. Pokemon Black is the faster version of the 2 games due to Reshiram having just a bit better special attack than Zekrom, which is important for the last 2 fights. Pokemon Black is one of the easiest Pokemon speedruns to jump into. It's definitely very beginner friendly, which is fantastic for you guys. The hardest part about learning to speedrun any Pokemon game is usually the RNG manipulation required to get a good starter. In video games, RNG basically refers to random number generation, a process that allows the game to automatically generate outcomes. Having a truly random experience in a game is incredibly hard to program. So in a way, everything is predetermined based on the actions of the player and time passing, but on a microscopic level in terms of time passing and actual inputs. This all may sound a little complicated, but don't worry. The best part about this game is that after you've done the setup for figuring out your manips, it's very easy to pull off, and allows for a lot more playtime within the speedrun compared to other Pokemon titles. Our RNG manipulation for Pokemon Black is used to get ourselves a naughty-natured Tepig with perfect IVs. So that seems too good to be true, right? Well, thankfully Gen 5 RNG manipulation is pretty insane thanks to being able to start the game on what we call Timer 0, which is basically the start value of the game and where the RNG seeds begin from. I highly recommend watching the speedrunner Craptodite. He's very knowledgeable and can give you a far more detailed explanation on Timer 0 than I can. Definitely go check out his speedruns. But moving along, we start the process by obtaining our DS parameters, which are unique to each individual system, so it can't be replicated on every DS out there, requiring us to do a little work. In RNG Reporter, we're going to go to the DS Parameter Finder. There, we're going to select Black under the Version tab, change your language to English, then select the DS type, then enter our DS's MAC address that you can find by going to your Wi-Fi settings. Now we need to narrow down our DS's parameters by catching a Pokemon immediately after loading. The best way to do this is by standing in front of a Pokeball Fungus by the Seasonal Institute just outside of Driftvale City, and then you load the game at the same date and time with the aim to hit the exact same Pokemon. You'll enter this exact date, hour, minute, and seconds into the field on the left. Just make sure when you are setting your date and time on the DS or 3DS to account for the start time of the system. For DS, it's 1 second roughly for each Timer 0. You may have to fiddle with this a bit depending on the seed you test later on, because you might have a consistent seed, just not at exactly 1 extra second. We can't do it earlier with a gift Pokemon like Pansage because the stats are simply too low to accurately measure during this process. There is an option to hold buttons, but we are going to keep it at none to make it easier. Next, let's click on Calculate IVs from Stats, and we are going to put the name of the Pokemon, the nature, the characteristic that shows up in its summary, the level, and its stats. This allows us to check its IVs and you're going to want to do this a bunch of times until you can narrow down which one you got the most. That will likely be your most consistent timer 0. So we will put those stats in by clicking OK, and then let's change the min and max seconds under seed encryption variables to be between 8 and 10, since we are aiming for the 9th second. Now, let's click search. We can see what timer 0 value is linked to the seed from our Pokemon stats. And voila! The parameters have been solved. So we go into the profile editor, we put in a name, and then the MAC address. Key presses are going to be none, 1, 2, and 3. Then select your language, version, and DS type like we did before. Make sure you put in the timer 0 value you got into min and max, so we isolate all of our next results to this value, since this is what your DS will run off of. The next step is actually finding our Tepig now, so we are going to open Time Finder. Make sure you have your profile loaded for configuration. Enter a year into the box, set the months to 4, 8, and 12, since those are the winter months that allow us to skip the trainers in Twist Mountain and obtain rare candies accessible in the winter overworld. Set your min/max frame to 11. This is very important because this is 100% needed to get this to work. Make your encounter type gift Pokemon and your encounter slot any. Now we will enter the stats. For HP, attack, and defense, I put equal to 31 IV, and for special attack, special defense, and speed, we will put more than or equal to 29. This ensures that we get an excellent Tepig that won't give us any issues during the speedrun. Now click generate, and it's going to use a lot of your CPU, so you may notice some instability. After it's done, you can go through the list of seeds and copy the usable ones to another document. Make sure to include the full information for the seeds, just so you have it for reference. You'll want to select the ones that don't fall on days that have hail, which can be found in a document that I'm going to put in the description. Ones that are between 9 to 35 seconds are going to be the best way to go about this. So that way it's not impossible to get them, or it will take too long between resets. Generally, I'd recommend looking for ones that also have good key presses, just to make it a little bit easier for yourself. Now that we have a list of seeds, it's time to figure out which one has the correct nature for us to work with. We are almost at the Tepig, guys. I know it's been a bit complicated at parts, but honestly, when you jump into it, it's super reasonable and easy to work out. Remember to like this video and to share it to other people who might like speedrunning a Pokemon game. And also follow me on Twitch as well if you want to see me doing world record attempts of this game. I love playing this game, and that's why I'm making this guide for you guys. So we are going to go and download the Desmume or DSMe emulator for this next step, since it's much faster than testing on console. You are also going to download the Lua scripts I have included in the description below in order to inject the seeds we find, and see the stats of each Tepig after obtaining it. So we'll launch the emulator and open the black ROM. Next, click on Tools, then Lua Scripting, and click New Lua Window. You will then browse and select the Seed Injection Lua script and the Gen 4 and 5 Pokemon Lua script. Click Edit on the Seed Injection window to paste one seed from the list we made from RNG Reporter. This will automatically load it into the game in the same way hitting it on the console would. Now you'll just need to speed through the game until the point where you obtain Tepig, and it's going to show its stats on the bottom screen when setting the Lua to black mode by pressing 1 3 times. You might get it on the first seed you test, or the 100th, but seeing that naughty nature pop up will feel so good, and let you know that the hunt is finally over. You are now ready to enter the minus offset of your seed, set the date and time on your DS, restart the console, and wait for your timer to hit 0, and start the game holding the key presses your seed requires. The last part of this video is going to be dedicated strictly to setting up the zero encounter manipulation at the beginning of your run, and helping with your Woobat cluster. So I'll explain here. Basically in black, we can make it so you get no encounters on Route 1, and if you are consistent with your steps and mashing in the overworld, you will often be around the same RNG inside Wellspring Cave, which can be great if you notice you encounter Woobats often. So at the beginning of the game, you will want to set your options and get your starter, since it's time to learn the run. After exiting your house, you will make sure you follow a movement pattern that you're going to repeat every single time, and mash as fast as you can while you're outside. RNG doesn't advance when you're in a building, but when you're outside, even hitting A slightly slower than the last time, or messing up movement could advance RNG and mess up your zero encounter manip. It's important to note that NPC movement is how you can tell if you're on the right track. Specifically with the southern Nuvema NPCs, the one just before the route, and the one after the first patch of grass. After mashing through the early game, and you're done the tutorial, continue your movement with the least amount of tiles walked, and see if you can get through it without an encounter. You might get really lucky, but if not, you'll just want to keep testing differences in movement until you get it. This will make for more consistent runs, but isn't required to speedrun the game by any means. You can test this on console or emulator. It's easy to use save states for this, but I personally like testing it organically on console when attempting runs, just to get some more playtime in. Unfortunately, we can't 100% manipulate anything past Route 1 due to the cross transceiver advancing the RNG immensely fast. However, if you are able to keep your movement on the seed relatively the same without taking too many extra steps, you will find that you'll see the same Woobats and Rog and Roll as often. The goal here is to figure out if you have a good Woobat cluster and roll with it. However, if you are hitting Rog and Roll as a bunch, I recommend taking a few extra steps throughout the early game or right in front of the cave in order to advance RNG enough to get you out of that cluster and in a better position to find a Woobat, since it's a 50% chance to find one normally. I would like to know that you can also wait a second or two when you're doing the cross transceiver call just in Route 2, so that way it advances RNG the same way, just in a less destructive manner. I know, guys, this is a lot of information to process and go through, but I'm glad that you made it this far, because that means you're well on your way to being a good Pokemon Black speedrunner. Now all you gotta do is follow the naughty Tepig notes made by Skoagogo, which is also in the description below. He is the current world record holder and a great friend of mine, so you can definitely trust that his notes will guide you through the game well. I'm eventually going to release a part 2 to this video dedicated to the route of the game, the intricacies of the game in general. It's also going to contain proper movement patterns and menuing advice, so definitely look out for part 2 to this when it goes up. Now, enjoy speedrunning, my friends. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all your guys' support. Remember to drop a like on this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and go follow me on Twitch to see some high-level runs of this game and some more Pokemon content. Have a good one, everybody. I will see you next time.